Consider starting a new one.
Thank you. Please be seated. The next order of business is a recognition of the Windsor High School CIAC Class M Girls Outdoor Track and Field State Champions. So, Mr. Coach Curse, if you could bring in the girls team for recognition. Girls for recognition.
Change, girls first.
And I'd like to take a picture with all of us, and hopefully the girls in front.
There's so many of them. That's gonna be tough.
Want to bring them here for a picture?
Right here. Then I'm just gonna move to the
If we want to
side.
stand in the back? Paul, do you want to have folks stand behind them?
You want to get behind them? Oh, okay.
We can integrate our group.
Are we supposed to be in it? Yes, no?
The president said he wants us in it, so
President says,
the president says we do.
you see? All right, come on.
Lean forward, jeez.
Perfect, thank you.
I have to do it 2 more times, so.
We're next going to recognize the Windsor High School CIAC Class M Boys Outdoor Track and Field State Champions.
These are a bit taller kids. See?
This is getting on somebody's tail. I like this format better. Paul, David, you might be onto something with this. Get them in, get them out.
Boy, that's quick. No wonder they're a good track team.
The next group we're going to recognize is the Windsor High School CIAC Class L Baseball State Champions. Just don't want to stand behind Evan.
Sir.
Some big guys here. Oh, I didn't realize how small
Be
they were.
young and fast again. Now I'm old and slow.
Our next item on the agenda is the recognition of the Windsor High School Juried Art Show. And we're going to have our winners, our folks that we've selected artwork for to come by. The Windsor High School Art Show Board of Education Purchase Prize is for Ainsley Sesportis for Counting Sheep. Superintendent's Purchase Prize to Amina Atazi for Women, and Sage Marie DeRogers for Solidarity, and the Windsor High School Prize to Suba Camilli for Start of Journey. I'm not sure, hopefully everybody is here tonight. We can get pictures and recognitions with. Yeah. Why don't we take it by their artwork?
I mean, you can take one or two.
What's that?
I mean, you pick one or two.
What?
You get to pick two.
They chipped me. Yeah.
Want to go over there?
This is the no socialism. We just don't have the president with the pictures. We have everybody. I don't know if you like the socialism.
Everyone ready?
wants us to read.
We're now going to hear a little bit about each of the pieces of art.
So after the past 2 years, the Windsor High School Art Department was thrilled to have a full in-person show this year in the Windsor High School Library in May to include art, CTE, and fashion students. As part of the awards, the Board of Education, Central Office, and Windsor High School select individual student work to professionally frame and display as part of their permanent collection. So there's a couple examples there. Here are the 2022 purchase prizes. So this year's Board of Education purchase prize goes to Ainsley Susportis for her colored pencil drawing titled Counting Sheep, which is here, and hold it. Ainsley explored how mental illnesses affect women in their daily lives. From her statement, she says, "Mental illness is individual, but I chose to express the emotions and feelings women with various mental illnesses might experience to help educate those who don't have mental illnesses and to show women who may suffer from mental illness that they aren't alone." Ainsley will be pursuing a degree in art therapy at Olivet Nazarene University in the fall while continuing to compete in swimming at the national level. Congratulations, Ainsley. This year's Central Office Administration selected 2 purchase prize winners who demonstrate the breadth of our programs, with Amina Aitazi putting voice to social justice issues and Sage Marie DeRosiers capturing our surroundings. Amina Aitazi's painting, Woman, was created to combat how plus-size women are seen in the media. She states, "Plus-size women are often viewed less feminine or womanly compared to skinnier people. I wanted to show that a woman is a woman no matter what their size. I also want my viewers to have confidence in themselves and accept themselves when they look at this painting." Amina plans to pursue a career as an esthetician. Congratulations, Amina.
Sage Marie's ceramic relief titled Solitude was part of her AP in Art and Design investigation exploring how does nature impact our emotions. Inspired by a river she spent time at in Enfield, where she grew up, she states, "This piece is meant to express the feeling of being alone but content. I utilize cool colors with some warm tones, along with lots of textures to enhance the visual experience that one might enjoy as if they were there themselves." Sage Marie plans to attend the University of Hartford in the fall of 2023 to study ceramics. This is her relief right here. Do you want to hold that or?
I mean, I'll pick it up. Why not?
Congratulations, Sage. This year's Windsor High School Purchase Prize goes to Suba Kamili for her watercolor painting titled Start of Journey, a piece from her AP Art and Design Sustained Investigation, where she explored the question, what is the journey of death? From her statement, in the year 2021, I had many important members of my family pass away due to COVID-19. The idea of reincarnation in life cycle, called samsara, fascinated me, and the belief that death could be depressing, yet alleviating, was interesting. My art piece titled Start of Journey is a presentation of how samsara starts. Fire presents the ritual of burning the body in Hinduism. Red spider lilies symbolize the guide to reincarnation and goodbyes. Suba will be attending UConn this fall to study management and engineering for manufacturing. Congratulations, Suba. Please check out our website to see pictures of it and video footage of the art show with some amazing student artwork and fashion creations. Thank you.
Ladies, if I could have you bring your piece of artwork this way.
Thank you so much to our artists. It was very exciting to have the art show back at Windsor High School in the library, the media center, and have a fashion show that night as well. And coming back from COVID, it's just great for us to be able to celebrate our students in this way again. So again, thanks for all the young artists here, and congratulations. Next item on the agenda is an announcement regarding Windsor Educator of the Year, and I'll look to Ms. Batchelder to make the announcement.
So item E comes before?
Okay.
Do you want me to?
No, we'll do item, Damari is here now. He wasn't here earlier. So the next item, sorry, is a recognition of the Board of Ed student representative, Damari Borens. If he could, again, another picture opportunity. Maybe I'll step in the front. I'll have everybody step behind, though, for the picture, but I'll take the president's prerogative to be here with Damari in between. Certificate of recognition, Damari Borens is hereby recognized for his outstanding service as a student representative for the Windsor Board of Education, awarded this 21st day of June, 2022, signed by myself as president of the Windsor Board of Education and Dr. Hill as superintendent. And it's been wonderful to have Damari, who was always willing to tell his truth and the truth of our students, and that's what we want them to be able to do. Maybe he gets talking to afterwards, but for board members, we like the unfiltered part of it. So again, congratulations and best of luck on your future endeavors. Thanks so much. As a board, we're getting our steps in tonight. The next item is the announcement of the Windsor Educator of the Year and Para-Educator of the Year. Ms. Batchelder?
Thank you. So, as many of you know, we do bring forth our Para-Educator and Teacher of the Year in our September board meeting, where they will be introduced by their principal or direct supervisor. But at this point, I'm just going to acknowledge who they are and just give a little quick synopsis of who those individuals are for you. So Carrie Cannoli is recognized, excuse me. I think I'm hungry. I said cannoli. No. Carrie Cannoni was recognized as our Windsor Public Schools 2022-2023 Educator of the Year. She began her teaching career with Windsor Public Schools in 2003. She began as a reading teacher at Clover Street School, and after 6 years moved into a new role as a reading specialist. She stayed in that role for 2 years and then became the literacy coach for Pequannock School until ultimately shifting gears and becoming the school's STEM coach in 2013, and that's where she currently is positioned today. Our Para-Educator of the Year is Beth O'Shea. Beth has been working at Windsor Public Schools for a combined 21 years. She enjoys inspiring her students with an emphasis on imagination and discovery that they can take with them into the world outside the classroom. Prior to moving to Oliver Ellsworth, O'Shea worked at Roger Wolka Elementary Childhood Center in the capacities of special education, paraeducator, tutor, and one-to-one during the summer programs. Since her time at Oliver Ellsworth, O'Shea worked as a kindergarten paraprofessional, later on moving to the preschool full-day program as a paraeducator for the last 7 years.
Congratulations to both our Educator of the Year and the Para-Educator of the Year, as well as all the other nominees who were there from their individual schools. Thanks so much. And both Carrie and Beth live in town, and their children went through Windsor School, so great to see them recognized. Next order of business, I think there may be a motion to change the order.
Move that, we move item 10, which is the replacement for Board of Education member Marion Kahn, to be taken up before audience to visitors, and then proceeding with the rest of the agenda afterwards.
Is there a second?
There's a second.
Motion made by Mr. Lockhart, second by Mr. Panos. Any discussion about switching the order? Seeing and hearing none. All those in favor of moving item 10 to before audience to visitor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Abstentions? I'm assuming Ms. Taylor voted aye, so the vote would carry 8-0-0.
Can we hear?
So,
Can we hear?
Can't hear.
Ms. Daly, can we find out if we can hear Ms. Taylor?
Her microphone, oh, there, she's unmuted.
We didn't hear her say yes, so it has to be
Right.
7-0-0.
It looks as though she is attempting to speak. The box is highlighted, but I'm not hearing any audio from her. If allowed, she could enter in the chat if you chose to recognize it that
Yeah,
way.
if, Ms. Taylor, if you could, in the chat, indicate whether you were voting to move the motion for the replacement Board of Ed member up. If
And she
not,
did.
the record will have to reflect 7-0-0.
She responded aye.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so next we'll go to the actual motion.
Mr. President, on behalf of the Windsor Democratic Town Committee, it is my duty to move that the Board of Education elect Darlene Place to serve the remaining term of Miriam Kahn or until the next general town election for members of the Board of Education.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Lockhart, seconded by
Mr. Wilson.
Mr. Williston. Any discussion?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Lockhart? Mr. Lockhart?
Okay. Mr. President, thank you. So, on behalf of the Democratic Caucus, we're in the DTC, we're putting forth Ms. Darlene Place. Brief overview, Ms. Darlene Place is a former Windsor DTC chair. Ms. Place is also a former vice president of the Windsor Board of Education, as well as a former minority leader of the Windsor Board of Education. She has served numerous years on this particular board, and kind of coincidentally that, you know, when I became a board member, she was the vice president at the time and welcomed me onto the board as I took over for someone's unfinished term. So on behalf of the DTC, it is the hope that, that the rest of this board will accept our nominee to replace Ms. Miriam Kahn. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Mr. Panos?
I've had the pleasure to serve on the board in the past with Darlene Clays, and have found her to be very well organized, prepared, professional, and a person of common sense. I have had my differences of opinion with her, and fully expect that we will disagree on issues in the future. But she has always shown herself to be a person of patience and I have certainly tried that patience with, and willing to understand the other viewpoint even when disagreeing. I think she'll be a very positive addition to the Board of Education. It'll be my pleasure to serve with her again. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak regarding this? Seeing and hearing none, I'd like to call, I think we can do it. I don't think we need to call the individual roll, or should we?
You have to call the roll.
Okay. Ms. Daly, if you could call the roll then?
Certainly. Robin Daly, Board of Education stenographer. Jill Cantor,
Yes.
David Fury,
Yes.
Julene Golinsky,
Yes.
Jeremy Halleck,
Yes.
Leonard Lockhart,
Yes.
Paul Panos,
Yes.
Ayanna Taylor. She responded yes in the chat. Nathan Wollaston.
Yes.
Passes 8-0.
Welcome, Ms. Clace. You may come up to be sworn in by the town clerk.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Connecticut, and the Charter of the Town of Windsor, and that you will faithfully discharge, according to law, your duties as a member of the Board of Education to the best of your abilities, so help you God? I do. All right, congratulations. Thank you.
And you get to come up to the front now. The next item of business is audience to visitor, and Ms. Daly, if you could read your script.
Good evening. This is Robin Daly from the Superintendent's Office. If there is anyone from the public who would like to address the board, you may do so in two different ways. If you are using the Zoom application on your mobile device or computer, you may enter your comments into the Q&A feature located at the bottom of the Zoom menu bar. Or you may raise your hand on your computer if your device has a microphone by selecting the participant's icon on the Zoom menu bar and then clicking Raise Hand, or by dialing *9 on your phone. You will be given 3 minutes to speak. Please state your name and address. When you are called on, you'll be prompted with "You are now unmuted." For clear communication, we ask that you do not place the call on speakerphone. No comments can be made against the employees of the school district or children outside of your own.
Thank you, and just so people know that at the 2:30 mark, Vice President Lockhart will raise a red card, just indicating time to start wrapping up your remarks, and then he'll hold it permanently at the 3-minute mark. If you're calling in or in on Zoom and you don't see, obviously if you're on the phone, you won't see it, he may have to interject at the 2:30 mark just to let you know it's time to start wrapping up your remarks. I'll first look to see if there's people in the boardroom who'd like to come up and speak to the board.
Hi, I'm Becky Jacobson at 50 Lighthouse Hill Road. I wanted to start off with saying I am concerned about the narrow parameters which our district uses for summer school extended school year. I have 2 children with IEPs, 2 children with 504s in the district. One of my children with an IEP is reading at a kindergarten level but going into 2nd grade. Not just reading at a kindergarten level, he's reading at a beginning kindergarten level. He was denied going into summer school twice. I continued to push and I was able to get him in. My concern is not for my child because I'm clearly loud and I can clearly push. My concern is for other students whose parents may not have the gift of time that I have, and they may not be able to push the way that I do, and those children are going to get left behind. The parameters for summer school are narrow in that we only expect to prevent regression for students. If we're looking at my son as the example, the only way he could regress would be if he forgot the alphabet at this point. So I think we need to consider why the parameters are so narrow and those children who we are leaving behind. And I'm not trying to trash anybody who works like with special ed. They're dealing with the parameters that they are given. So I just think that's something that the board needs to consider, because if we are not concerned with our students who need the most help, then we're not looking out for all of our students. Secondly, I just wanted to give a shout out to teachers who I have worked with this year, either at work or who worked with my children. This year has been extremely difficult. I know a lot of teachers came in this year saying it felt more difficult than the pandemic years. I think because we expected everything to feel normal and get back to normal, and that we all know that that wasn't the case. So I just wanted to give a shout out to the teachers in the district that I feel deserve an A+ in my book. Ms. Pointek at the high school, she's a math teacher. She was continually looking out for her students and helping out, offering extra help, working with every student, and I just commend her for that. Mr. Keach Longo at Clover Street School was tremendous in helping my own son. He was fantastic. Also, employees Cristofaro. That would be helpful. Ms. Cristofaro and Ms. May were amazing, and I have told Ms. May I hope she's put in her name for principal at Clover Street. I think she'd do a fantastic job. I don't know anybody else who cares about the students the way that she does. Ms. McCann at Pequannock School, she has been fantastic. She has worked consistently with my son, who is behind in his reading. And Ms. Scott, who has had a Jacobson child 2 years running, and for that she deserves probably like $1 million in a vacation. So just, she's amazing. And also Ms. Romero, she has really, I think, found her niche in her role as assistant principal, and I commend the work that she's doing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else in the boardroom who'd like to address the board? Anyone else in the boardroom? If not, Ms. Daly, is there anyone online or on the phone?
At this time, there are attendees in the room, but there are no hands raised, and there are currently no open questions in the Q&A feature.
Okay, without objection, I'd like to close audience to visitor. Seeing no objections, audience to visitor is closed. The next item is the consent agenda, and there'll be a motion by Mr. Lockhart, but we'll first see if there are items that would like to be pulled from the consent agenda.
A.
A?
Yep.
Okay. Financial report, we'll pull that. Anything else? Okay, I think that's the only one.
Mr. President, I move that we accept by unanimous consent agenda items 4B, C, and D, enrollment, food service, and human resources reports.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion made by Mr. Lockhart, seconded by Mr. Panos. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none. All those in favor of the consent agenda as to 4B, 4C, and 4D, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Abstentions? And it's either 700 or 800 or 900.
She said aye.
Oh, she did. Okay,
Yes.
very good.
So it's 900.
Thank you for being my eyes here
problem.
and ears. Motion carries 900. Another motion, Mr. Lockhart?
Sir, I move that the board accepts the consent agenda item 4A, which is the financial report.
Is there a second?
I'll second it. Thank you.
Motion made by Mr. Lockhart, seconded by Mr. Panos to accept 4A, and we'll have a discussion. Mr. Panos, since you asked it to be removed, we'll have you start that discussion.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Batchelder, could you tell us what happened with the special ed tuition here? We went from an balance of 4%. I guess we would have exceeded, but it appears that we went from expected $211,000 to $1,062,000 for the final expected. I think it looks like we picked up about 500,000 just in 1 month, and then for the remainder here, it's gone to about a half a month for June. It's gone up to $1,062,000. Did we have some additional students that were identified and sent out? In other words, we're in the hole, let's say, so to speak. I mean, we're over budget by $1,062,000.
So I didn't hear the original line item. Are you just asking about special ed tuition?
Special ed tuition.
Okay. So the monthly report, so I've updated the board how in the deficit we've been with special ed all through budget season, informing everybody that we are significantly in the hole this year. Same thing happened last year, which is why we had to add money. So the way they bill, you only see what we've actually paid to date. The column to the far right that's shaded, I do every June because this only goes through May 31st. And so our projections is that we are going to be in the hole $1 million. It's been the projection probably since about November, which is why I put a budget freeze on the budget a few months ago in order to be able to compensate for this one line item.
Okay, so you could project in April or March that you were going to be in the hole. Is that the idea? What?
I couldn't project?
You could, or
Yeah,
you could,
we knew this back in November, and what we talked about all through budget season, budget for next school year, about how much we are in the deficit this school year.
Right. Well,
But the way the report is, it just shows, the way the
understand.
report is what is actually spent.
right. So this was expected, and so, and it was. I'm anticipating the next year here. Are you going to? Do you think you're going to be asking for another $1 million for special ed tuition?
I don't know. So it's such a volatile account. We've never been where we are today or last year for 5-6 years. We've always trended really well. The number of special ed kids have remained around the same number.
Right.
It's the amount of money these out of district.
Yeah, so some of the schools are billing us per student almost $1,000 more than the previous year. Their tuition increases have been,
A month,
have been,
not a year, a month, yeah.
have been astronomical, which then, even though, I think actually this year we have less than we had last year, but the tuitions are more money, so.
And we have 3 or 4 students that are between 250,000
Yeah.
to $500,000.
Yeah.
We've never seen that before, a year, ever. Well, since I've been here, we've never gone above 150,000 a student. And we're
we've had some
bypassing
200,000 before,
200 easy now.
Okay.
So, but I just want to point out, on the flip side, the town of Windsor received close to $500,000 more than what they received last year, because this is all excess cost. So they receive the money that we're in the hole for this school year.
They received it all?
Yes, it
They
also affected
receive anything above that threshold of 4.5%, the 92,000 times 4.5.
Anything that would be 500,000 really is not on, most of that money is not on Windsor. It's
Right, so it's on the
the
way-
state, except there's also, they only pay about 80%.
They only 80,
Right.
yeah, so it's really not.
Yes.
it's
No,
not-
but they
Don't say it's all
receive,
paid for.
I know, but I just want to make
that
sure
caveat.
everyone understands, what they received last year, they received 500,000 more this year because of how much we were in the hole last year and this year, that they were not expecting.
Well,
So when we
Okay.
go, Mr. President, so when we go through budget time, we can forecast that whatever the amount of children we have that we can anticipate it's gonna, how much it's gonna cost, we're gonna be expecting that as a finance committee for that to show, and then we should also know that they've already collected $500,000, and then we can forecast based off of what we currently have, because it's very volatile, that, you know what, we may be in this situation again a year from now. So we just want to make sure that the messaging from this board should be to the town council as well as the citizens during the referendum, that this is something that possibly will not go away anytime soon, as long as we have the same amount of students with the same amount of cases, of the same cases within the district. So I think we could be better prepared for it.
Yep.
I think that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I mean, this is now 2 years in a row, and some of these students came in this year that weren't here last year. We get excited when we were able to get certain, payments off our payroll, if you will. But then students come into district that we have no control over, and that's really what we've seen these past 2 years.
So, okay.
Can I just add to that? I mean, I think our department works very, very hard to get the students back into our public schools. And we work very, very hard to develop programs within the walls of our buildings to keep the students here with their peers in their neighborhood schools. I think sometimes what's hard and what Ms. Batchelder touched upon is we do have students who are perhaps in DCF care who come with an outplacement already that we then have to foot the bill for. And that can also add to the rising costs because we can't predict that ever.
Yeah, but take in mind that they only pay 80%, of the excess, which is what, we pay, what, 5 times the average?
Well, I think that's a matter that I know President Lockhart with CAVE, you guys were collecting data. My governing bodies have been collecting data to push the state to pay us more.
Yep, and it failed.
And it's been hard because we can't get the state to pay more.
Right.
Right.
And I know I talked to many of our delegation, and it's an issue, the excess cost cap is an issue to every district in the state. This is not rich districts versus poor district. This affects everyone, and we still are not able to get the attention that I think, that's needed. And I know I've lobbied with President Lockhart in the past on this issue, and it was a major issue that CABE, the Connecticut Associations of Boards of Education, pushed as well. And it is, the thing is, it's one of the few things in our budget that we really have trouble predicting. We know what students we have at the moment, but we don't know who may come into our district or what other students that are in our district may need more services than they've had in the past. So I appreciate the fact that you have been bringing this up to us, and that you put a freeze on other items here, knowing that this was likely to go up. I appreciate that. Any other questions, Mr.?
Well, I just like to point out that this is, I mean, at $300,000 per person, you're dealing with something which is, it should be questioned, in other words, regardless of what it is. And I don't know if CABE does that or who does that. You're doing, that sounds like something that is unusual. And I guess I'm asking is where we're sending them, are they just arbitrarily raising their rates? I'd like to, maybe sometime when we get into finance, we discuss something like that. But, for this purposes, I'm just concerned about any excess.
We try to be mindful where we send students.
I'm sure you are. I'm sure you are.
What we're running into right now is we can't even find schools for some of our students because the need is so great. And so I think then the schools, sometimes private businesses, can charge more because there's demand.
Okay. All right. So that's an item that, can be, it's more of a political problem, I would say. Something to talk to the legislature about. But, I guess we also have a similar thing, Ms. Batchelder, regarding special ed transportation. We have we're in the red, 292,000, right, you expect. So is it the same sort of thing?
Right, so special ed transportation, it's a little different than the tuition because we do transport all of our out-of-district students to these places, but the special ed transportation is in-district, that students that need the smaller buses, the type 2 buses, vans, wheelchairs, so all of that, they get transported separately. So again, if students come in and need a specialized transportation, those are always added costs that we can't predict. However, the regular ed transportation is up, has a surplus of about 426,000.
Right.
Because of the numbers of the big buses that we weren't running this year because we didn't have the drivers. So in those two have always been, I knew we were in the good overall, those two, all year, but this report breaks them out. But again, we're in the hole every year with special ed tuition and transportation. It's just from the unknown throughout the school year that when kids come in.
All right, it's just something to remember for budget time. You have special ed tutor salaries. I see that the bottom line is that we only have you're only expecting to have $3,800 exit, so that's
Yeah, in the
low.
town,
It's quite
this
low
was-
compared to, past years.
Right. Yep, absolutely. But we've never returned the amount that we've returned the past 2 years. We returned it because of COVID. This is a normal year where we're always within 100,000, less than 100,000 given back
Yeah.
to the town.
Typically,
But yeah, no, and I've reported this, the town has known this, that we weren't giving money back for about 2 months now.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Wollaston?
I just had a few comments towards just the comment made about why out of district is increasing so much for special education, being someone who works in and out of a place where kids get sent pretty much. So from what I've seen on my end, there's a lot more the intakes we've been doing are a lot more lower functioning kids who require more supports. They're requiring a lot more just support in general than kids that were had in the past. So now we're seeing a change in what's coming in, which is going to cost more money, cost more services compared to what was passed. And the place where the bill is going is to the student because the student just requires so much, and then the bill's not really going to the student, it's going to the district that the student's from. So just from being someone who works at a place like that, you see that it's kind of what we're dealing with on that side. So.
Thank you. Ms. Galinsky?
Hi, thank you. Well, one, I want to thank Ms. Batchelder because I certainly appreciate the projected balance for the end of June that you have in here. I think it helps all of us on the board, as well as any individual that is listening to these meetings, to understand that we are actually pretty spot on in terms of where we are ending for this fiscal year. And so it's hard to understand that when you're not familiar with numbers, and I absolutely understand that. And so I just want everyone to know that obviously every category differs. You know, some may be over, some may be under. But at the end of the day, I want to give kudos to those who approved the budget the past year and for all of the hard work that you all do. But if I could add one little suggestion, if we could add the percentage variance balance too, because I think that's going to help other people understand where we're ending up, because they're going to see these really large numbers, but at the end of the day, when you're dealing with this $6 million budget, and you might be $500,000 under or over, when you see that percentage, it's going to make a lot more sense for people to kind of connect the dots, whereas you see the large numbers and it's like, oh my goodness, we are so far over, so far under, but the percentage really tells that story. If we could do that, that would be great, and if not, I understand too. It's just merely a suggestion.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Anyone else? Okay, then I'd like to have the question called. So all those in favor of item 4A, the financial report, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Abstentions? Did we hear Ms. Taylor?
She says aye.
Okay. Motion carries 900. Next, we have the approval of minutes, and usually I have Ms. Taylor make the motion, but I maybe look to Mr. Lockhart in this case as Ms. Taylor is remote.
Are there any minutes that need to be pulled? I'm hearing nothing, Mr. President. With that being said, I move that all the minutes on the agenda for today, which is 5A through 5D, be adopted.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Lockhart, seconded by Mr. Panos. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions? Motion carries 900. Next item on the agenda is the student representative report.
Well, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
As you know, the class of 2022 has graduated, and we're all moving on to the next chapter of our lives. There's not much for me to present on, but I just want to thank everybody for giving me the opportunity to be on the board. I know a lot of kids have been coming up to me inside of the school saying, oh, how can I do this and how can I do that? So, you know, the shoes are going to be filled regardless of what happens. I do take pride in Windsor schools, so much so that I keep coming back to the middle schools and elementary schools to help out. So this is a great school district. I'm glad that I grew up here, and I just want to, again, thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your service. As we said earlier in recognizing you, we've had a couple students this year who didn't mind speaking your mind. Neither of you were timid about it, and it's good for us on the board. When I was a representative of the School Governance Council, I got to hear a couple of also very open-minded and students willing to say their truth. And not having that, it's been nice to have you on here to give the students perspective. Okay.
Yes, I'd also like to praise your contributions here. I very much appreciate your candor in telling us how it is objectively at the high school. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Ms. Cantor?
I'd just like to thank you and congratulate you and your classmates. I think you're awesome. I think you did a fabulous job. It's really good to do civic duty and continue to do that for your whole life. I know you will do well whatever you do. And come back and visit us. Remember us. Thank you for everything you've done.
And you may have to come back and give some guidance to her son who'll be moving to the high school next year. So you've been coming back to Sage Park and the elementary schools. You got to come back for Ms. Cantor next year. Anyone else? Mr. Wollaston.
Yeah, I'll just say you're a great young man with a bright future ahead of you. It's been nice to get to know you and work with you on the board.
Mr. Halleck.
Thank you. I just wanted to say congratulations, and I wish you all the best going forward.
Thank you. Mr. Lockhart.
I just want to say do well. I'm not going to say good luck. To say good luck means that Windsor has not prepared you. I believe we've prepared you well. And I just hope I'm alive and well to see where you're going to be in your life 10, 15, 20 years from now. You got a good head on your shoulders. You speak your piece. And you and Taylor did a great job representing Windsor High School this year. So I'm looking forward to great things out of you. No pressure, but you know what? You have to speak certain things into existence. So hopefully, I'm alive to see you do well.
Ms. Galinsky, sorry.
That's okay. Thank you. Congratulations. I cannot wait to see what you do, and I imagine you're going to have great success. And thank you for giving us such an insight into students' minds at the high school, because we don't know what's going on and how you all think, and we are so appreciative for all that you've done to help us understand.
Okay, the next item of business is the President's Report. I received a card, and it was really addressed to me, but also to all the board members, and it was from the desk of our kid governor, Mackay Etienne Modeste. It said, "Dear Mr. Fury and board members, thank you for your support and for allowing me to share my platform, Mackay." And again, what an excitement we did have this fall when we had our first kid governor from Windsor Public Schools. He's has a great program that it's really hard to be against taking care of animals. So, and my daughter used to work for Humane Society, and so it's a passion that I have as well as my daughter has. And I just as with our student rep, I expect great things from Mackay going forward. I usually don't speak regarding people who've spoken at audience to visitor, but I want to take one thing that Becky had mentioned early on, and that is things that I was hearing in the district as well. I had so many teachers come up to me and say how great it was to be back in school and have the students there. But there was still a number of them who also said how difficult this was. As difficult as it was having hybrid and trying to teach some kids who were there and not there. So we understand the struggles that have gone on in the school year for all the staff and parents and students. And it's up to us as the board and the district to make sure going forward that we recognize this issue. And I think Dr. Hill was great in getting ahead of the curve regarding social emotional learning. A number of years ago, we had both parents and staff say some of the best things, the most important things to improve climate in our schools was social emotional learning. And we've just scratched the surface. They've done a great job, but it's really just still the beginning. And luckily, we still have federal funds next year to keep those staff in place and train more students as they come through, and also reaching out to staff and parents and families to supplement what goes on already at our family resource centers. I was not able to attend graduation. I was out of the state, but I know President Lockhart did a great job in my stead, and people were saying, most people have said it was so exciting to get back to the Bushnell and having people again together again, just as I had mentioned earlier about the art show, having people in our buildings again. I also unfortunately was not able to attend Sage Park graduation from 8th grade to 9th grade. But again, it's those changes, those kind of historic points of switching schools and going on to the next level that are so important, and it's been good that we've been able to honor our students this year in that way. A shout out to Megan Hislop and the Technology Student Association. We'll be sending students both from the high school and the middle school to the TSA Championships in Dallas at the end of the month. I am a tech, I'm not very good at technology, but I appreciate it so much. And what's happening in our district regarding STEM, whether it's robotics clubs or the TSA at the high school and the middle school, shout out to her and our students who've earned that right to go, and for the district and finding the monies to be able to send them there. Thank you, Dr. Oliver. I want to wish folks a restful summer to the best you can. I saw a sign up in front of Pequannock near where I live where it says read, 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 and I couldn't emphasize that anymore. Hopefully students will be out there and maybe get to pick books that they want to read. There's a kickoff this coming week, I believe, this week at the Windsor Library for the summer reading program. And there's usually contests for adults as well, so hopefully people will check that out. We had a great collaboration for Juneteenth on Saturday between the Windsor Library Association, the Windsor Library, and Windsor Public Schools. Got to see Mr. Wollaston there and Dr. Hill, Dr. Oliver. A lot of doctors were there, so not Dr. Lockhart.
Not yet. Not yet.
I don't have the title yet. But that was a great way to recognize students as well. And I'm hoping maybe in the future that we can have more schools represented. Last year, we had the book that was done at Oliver Ellsworth and students who read from excerpts from there. And this year, we had some singing, and we had some thoughts regarding Martin Luther King and his impact in the district. And it's those types of things that do bring people to events when we can honor their students. So I'm hoping that we'll have another year where we can support that. Shout out to really all the staff in the district, but specifically myself, to Sally Brown and Robin Daly. They are our unsung heroes who keep us going, who get things out, who support each other with Robin and Sally. We always need one. There's, I think, a requirement they both can't be out, even sick the same day. Otherwise, we would fall apart. But again, thank you so much to Robin and to Sally, who's at a fun celebration for the next week or so. And that's all I have. If there's any questions about my report. Okay, seeing and hearing none. Look to school liaison reports. I don't know if Ayanna can speak. Maybe I'll start with Mr. Wollaston, and I don't know if she's able to chat, if there's anything to add. So Mr. Wollaston, regarding Windsor High.
I just want to say a quick congrats to the baseball team, the artists that presented their art in the girls and boys track and field. Also to all graduates, and teachers and admin, because, coming to the end of another year, hopefully some of us can just take a breather and rest and reset for the next one. Yeah, it's been another long, challenging year, and as we just get ready for the summer, just try to find your balance all over again, and just grateful to have you guys here to even support us at the board. You guys, I know it's been a long, challenging one, but thank you all for everything you do.
Thank you. Any questions for Windsor High? Seeing none. Mr. Halleck, Sage Park.
Thank you very much. On May 25th, I attended the spring music concert. That went very well. There was not an empty seat in the house, so that was great. That was great to see. All the students did very, very well, and many of you who may know my wife, Kate, got to play the clarinet with our sixth grade class, which they were all amazing. So definitely a shout out to everyone who went to that event and participated. It was definitely a great event. So thank you all. Also want to congratulate our eighth graders on the recent promotion to the high school. Just a reminder, I know it's a little ways away yet, but August 29th will be our first full day of school back in August. And that's all I have for this evening.
Okay, thank you. Any questions regarding Sage Park? Seeing none. Clover Street School, Mr. Lockhart.
Just wanted to say congratulations to those that are moving on to Sage Park, and congratulations to those that are moving in to Clover next year. I want to thank you to those parents and staff members that took a great interest in the playground project at Clover Street, and want to thank them for really staying on DPW for cleaning up the areas, especially before field day. That was huge to them. And thank you for the town of Windsor for coming through and making sure that that happened for them as well. But as always, to the teachers and staff, have a joyful and restful summer, and we look forward to having you back later on in the year.
Thank you. Any questions for Clover? Okay, Jill, John F. Kennedy School.
Thank you. I'd just like to say congratulations to all the students on their promotion, and thank you for the teachers and all staff at all the schools for doing such a great job. I was really happy to attend some of the events that went on. I had the opportunity to go to Sage Park Middle School and to see the concerts, and it was the first concert that they had in 2 years, and I was really blessed to see our student representative there. And I attended many other events too, so it was really nice, and everybody did such a great job. Thank you.
Any questions regarding JFK? Ms. Galinsky, Oliver Ellsworth.
Great, thank you. So OE actually had a couple of really exciting events that happened over the last month. I had mentioned that they had their spring carnival, which took place after our last board meeting, and it was a massive success. They had no idea that it was going to be such a big turnout. I think at one point there must have been at least over 500 people there. Cars were lining the streets on Kennedy Road, which if anyone has ever been to Oliver Ellsworth, they have a very long section to be able to be parking their cars. And the police were actually called a couple of times because the residents on Kennedy Road didn't understand what was going on. And so the police had to just tell them, like, everything's under control, it's a school event, everything is great. So I think everyone really had a great time. Of course, they had field day as well, and the kids had an absolute blast. But one thing that stood out to me when the high school seniors graduated was they all came to the elementary schools. Mm-hmm. I didn't know they did this, and so for anyone who isn't aware, they went to all 4 elementary schools, being bussed in, and to just see them going into the school and just talking with the kids and just participating with them, I think is such an important, it's just so important for these young kids to see that this is what you can aspire to be. And they went through all the schools. And so my 2 children go there. I think everyone already knows that at this point, but they were so excited. They're like, oh, like these older kids came in, and to just have them become role models was super important. And then lastly, on the very last day of school, all OE staff members came out and waved to the kids on the buses as they left. It was just the cutest parade I've ever seen in my life, I think. So kudos to them for being just such an incredible, like, caring staff.
Thank you. Any questions for OE? Seeing none. Mr. Panos, Pequannock School?
Yeah, the Pequannock School had their second grade promotions on the last day of school, and the ceremony was opened by the kid governor. And he said, I understand he did a terrific job, and his focus of his speech was on you don't have to wait to be great. In other words, you can do things well. The kids did a lot of fundraising for things like for Ukraine and for the housing authorities. So they're very proud of that. Apparently they've had a lot of, they're well connected according to surveys that they took with the staff and the student and the parents, that they're well connected with the school. They have they've had home visits. They said they had more home visits than ever. It's over 100. So they did a terrific job. Their academics overall, they had 60% were at or above the goal, and the first graders in particular had 80% of them were at or above. This is for the STAR assessment, and so they expect great things next year. There was the PTO did organize a game, an event for the, to see the baseball game at the Yard Goats. I could not get to see that, but I understand that went over well. And of course, they're also going to have the reading challenge over the summer, and I guess the math challenge too will be coming. So that's the news for it. Hopefully, there'll be very little slippage over the summer. Thank you.
We're not allowing summer slide this year, just to let everybody know. Any questions for Pequannock? Okay. The next item on the agenda is a discussion, possible action to extend the current hybrid format for Board of Ed meetings. Is there a motion?
Mr. President, I move to extend the current hybrid meeting format for 2022-2023 school year for board members and the public for regular board meetings, including special meetings, and leaving Finance Committee as hybrid, and policy, curriculum, long-range planning committee meetings as virtual. Executive committee meetings would be decided by the BOE president.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion made by Mr. Lockhart, seconded by Mr. Panos. Discussion? Mr. Panos?
Well, I'm very happy to see that you have come to your senses here, so to speak. Except I shouldn't gloat. No, collaboration. Yes, no gloating. Thank you very much. This is a very good thing to do.
Mr. Lockhart?
Even though I'm the maker of the motion, I'm still torn on this matter. I do understand that this makes it very easy for the public, and I'm very in strong support of that. I'm also a traditionalist where I believe we should be in our seats, but I do understand the benefit of the ease of getting these meetings done more efficiently. So I am conflicted. However, I represent the greater group, so I will be in support of this. So me coming to my senses, I wouldn't say that. What I would say is that if I had my way, we would all be in our seats for every single meeting, but I understand that it's a new age, a new time, and it's a new way of doing business, so I accept it as is.
And one of the things to me that's been a positive of the virtual committee meetings is we've had the ability for people to come home from work where they may not have had time to come in to come down to LP, depending on where they live, but they're able to possibly get things done around the house, and if they're not on the committee, still listen in on what's going instead of having to wait for their representative to say, this is what transpired at the committee meeting. And so it's increased, though I'm sure Mr. Panos has trouble that he's not able to speak other than 3 minutes to some of these meetings. It has increased our board to be directly involved of what's going on in those committee meetings. And as for the hybrid to the community, again, we've heard from many people how good this has been not to have to come down to say their what's on their mind, to have that choice of watching from home. So this motion also extends not only for board members, but for the public to be able to participate in a hybrid manner. And also the virtual manner of watching our committee meetings. So any other discussion on this, Mr. Halleck?
Thank you. I definitely agree with all those points. I want to make one other point about the video, or about the discussion format within the chat. I think that's a great thing as well for the community, because if a member of our community is feeling either anxious about coming down here, or may have speech difficulties, or whatever the reason may be, it still gives them an opportunity to participate in our meeting. So I definitely think that's a great thing as well, and I'm in full support of this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Galinsky? Oh, sorry. Ms. Galinsky? Sorry.
I just want to say thank you for bringing this to the table to have this discussion. One of the biggest things is that we want the community members involved, and how can we reach them if we don't adapt to this amazing technology that is available today to actually be inclusive to everyone here. So, people who have young families, they may actually work during the evenings, but might be able to take a break and to be able to tune in during some of this discussion. I think that this way we are actually bringing more people in and having their voice and their opinions heard. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wollaston?
Yeah, I agree with Ms. Galinsky. Though I've never thought about it in this light, until today, but I'll admit it. Because when the question is raised, I usually just think about us and should we be here in our seats or should we not? But in considering of the people of the town, it's extremely inclusive, and we need to extend our doors to be open past just these doors if it allows people to have their voice heard.
Thank you. Ms. Cantor?
Thank you. I appreciate this opportunity, too. I know I'd like to be here in my seat, but sometimes I can't always, and I really think that we need to allow our community to be able to listen and hear and see what's going on and participate. And, I look at the cost of gas and groceries, and I don't think people want to do extra driving and everything at this, and they want to be able to communicate and participate in this. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. And I think we've shown as board members that most of the time we are all in our seats. So it's not as if we're saying, oh, it's a meeting, but I can be at home. So everybody's respected the fact that we've been voted by people to be here and mainly to be in our seats. But this gives us the flexibility, and it's shown to be working fairly well. We don't always hear people. That's the nature of technology, and I won't blame Kevin. Kevin, you're fired. No. But I think, and I hear Mr. Lockhart, and I'm not too far away from his position, but I think I've come to believe that in general we're all respecting our responsibilities to be in our seats when we can be.
Let me just make another
Panos.
comment. For board members, a really good, neat thing about this is that you can essentially go to every committee meeting. You can listen in, because it's really something, to be traipsing down here all those times, just to go there and all you can do is talk at the audience to visitors at the beginning of the meeting. No, I don't care for that. But, so you can give questions, to a member to ask or to talk about. But you see the presentations by the staff, by the administration, and, when it's done more fully than when it's done here at the board meeting. So it's an increase in efficiency for the board for communication. And the same thing sort of applies to the workshops and the special meetings too. You can tune in. Sometimes you can't make it. Sometimes you're out of state for whatever reason. There's no reason just because you're in South Carolina or something. Let's say Puerto Rico. Why you can't participate in a meeting?
Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Last comments? Seeing and hearing none. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions? Motion carries 900. Next item of business is the superintendent's report. Dr. Hill?
Thank you, Mr. President. On Monday, June 6th, we graduated the Windsor High School class of 2022. Araya Miller is the valedictorian for the Windsor High School class of 2022. Araya will attend Yale University in the fall and plans to major in political science. And she gave an amazing speech, by the way. Taylor Filatico, who is also the fall student rep to the board, is the salutatorian for the Windsor High School class of 2022. Taylor will attend Bates College in the fall and plans to double major in biology and neuroscience. And she spoke to all of us being our own sons and people around us being part of our solar system. These are some interesting students. Excuse me, and I already said that Taylor was the BOE fall representative for 2021. Our credit recovery and credit accumulation program begins on June 27th. The summer enrichment program will run again this summer at Windsor High School and Oliver Ellsworth School. It will begin on July 5th, and we have approximately 500 students participating in our programs. The Windsor Public Schools Summer Food Program will be held from June 27th to August 12th, closed on July 4th, from Monday through Friday. Our locations this year are the Wilson Library at 365 Windsor Avenue from 11:30 a.m. to 12:15 p.m. and the Gosley Pool / Stroh Park from 12 p.m. to 12:45 p.m. I want to thank all of our community scholarship partners. Our graduating seniors received over $130,000 in scholarships at their Senior Scholarship and Awards Night on June 2nd. Windsor High School cheerleaders and members of the Black Excellence Club participated in the Juneteenth celebration held on the town green this past Sunday afternoon. There was dance, poetry, and singing. It's always great to see our students out in the community. Tonight is the last regular Board of Ed meeting for the 2021-2022 school year. Our next regular meeting will be on Tuesday, September 20th, 2022, at 7:00 p.m. in the boardroom at LPW. And you will also still be able to log online, as we just heard the vote. Thank you to Jenny Horan, Howard Marsh, and Jamil Ahmed from WinTV, and Robin Daly, our stenographer and Zoom extraordinaire. Sally made me put that word in there. With the assistance of Mr. Sam Batchelder and Kevin, thank you. We have been back in LPW boardroom since February. And I just want to say, I know this is not a gigantic room, but I like us having our own boardroom. I like having the separate space. It gives us a more professional appearance, professional vibe, and it also gives the board its own identity from the town chambers, very much so. I know I wanted to remind some that had concerns about our paras and security. We are going to ensure that there's training for them this fall around reporting student infractions. So we will be creating a particular process just for them because we won't change our system, which is online, but we will ensure that they have a process to utilize to report infractions, and they will be trained in that process this fall. And then there was a question about how are books selected for the library, and these are non-textbooks, so these are just books in our school libraries. And I asked our humanities director, Ms. Bonnie Feynman, to be available to answer this question tonight. Is she online?
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, we can hear you.
Great, thank you so much for your patience tonight. I wanted to be there, but I'm a bit under the weather, so the virtual option that you just discussed was very helpful for me this evening. Thank you to Dr. Hill for allowing me to discuss this from home. I wanted to start in answering the question with just a reminder to the public. Obviously, the board would know this, that we do have a board policy under instruction, namely under equipment, books, and materials that does speak to the selection of books in our schools. It does give some guidelines for what should be selected, such as representing a wide range, diversified range of quality materials which support instruction from the approved curriculum. These materials will accurately portray the cultural and racial diversity as well as the male-female roles in our society. That's the first section under that policy. And there are some other parts of it that mention what we do when we want to discard books and things like that. But pertaining to the question, I think this is a good starting point.
The other thing that I wanted to mention is that we have certified personnel who serve as library media specialists. They are trained in exactly how to manage a library. We rely on them just like we would our classroom teachers to make appropriate decisions, professional decisions about what is contained in our school libraries. For example, they do select books that are comprehensively reviewed by professional sources. For example, a school library journal might be one that we would look to. They try to make sure we have a range of formats for the needs of our students, like audio books, large formats, interactive books, etc. And that they are interesting, relevant books for our students, and meet the developmental and maturity level needs of all of the children in the schools. You know, sometimes books get added to the collection in different ways. You know, obviously the as I mentioned, the library media specialists, using their expertise, are going to select books that they feel will meet the criteria that I just mentioned. But sometimes we have students or teachers who request books. The library media folks will review them to make sure that they belong in the school library. But you know, can happen that way, that get requests from students, or on occasion, I might even request some books that I think will be a good match in alignment with our curriculum. As I did inquire with our library department a little bit about how they do this. They just said they are very consistent in making sure to represent the needs of all of the students. And they are very cognizant about having collections that are relevant and are interesting. And, you know, they don't shy away from having collections of books that have a diversity of topics and viewpoints, because that is a key facet of a library for students to be able to read and grow and obtain knowledge that they can apply and make decisions about where they stand on things. So I'm not sure if you have questions from there, but I tried to provide an overview for everybody.
Okay, questions? Mr. Panos?
I think the issue here, obviously, but if you take this, let me just point out, if you take a diversity of viewpoints, I'm sure there are viewpoints that, you know, I needn't bring up here, which simply would not be appropriate for a library, any library. There are, you know, so the idea that we do diversity for anything, for any viewpoint, is simply not true. You have to have standards for it. So, you know, these, you know, the standards that you mentioned here, you know, diversity, are, you know, fine if what you're talking about is political viewpoints and things which are appropriate for students who are of a particular age. But if you have explicit content, this is graphic descriptions of sex acts and things of this nature, there's no literary reason to have such things in a library for 12-year-olds or 13-year-olds or even high schoolers. I mean, this is, so there have to be some standard. We had someone who showed up and gave an explicit example of this a few months ago. So I think that the question is, what are the standards? What are the standards that are used? And, you know, there's, so yes, you have to have a diversity of viewpoints, but the particular material has to be something which is in decent taste. You know, instead of being crude and, you know, informal to a point that is just debasing. So that's the origin of the kind of question about this. It's not that there is diverse cultures and things of this nature, diversity of interests, subjects, or what have you. But it's the kind of crude language that descriptions that characterize the particular book, and books that might be similar to that. There are others out there. Now, whether they're in our library, I don't know whether the others are, but certainly the one that was brought up was kind of striking. So that's the thrust of the issue.
Yes, I totally understand your point. Just to remark on that particular book, it was not mentioned in the when the parent came to talk to the board, but that book actually was never even used in the classrooms. Mrs. Jorgensen and her team made the decision that they weren't going to even have it as a choice, so the book actually never even was used. And
it's in the library, though.
It is in the library. Yep, I agree with you. It is in the library. And sometimes, I mean, and I hear what you're saying, like books that are crude for the sake of being crude are certainly not, that don't have an educational value certainly are not appropriate. It was deemed that this particular book, in its reviews from the School Library Journal and other sources that are professional resources for library media specialists, that it had value for children from middle school to high school. Now, obviously, with what the parent read, I can see the opposition to it. But, there are some books that are going to have some content that is maybe questionable, but they may also have educational value in other ways. So it's tough. I mean, we'd have to remove pretty much every Shakespearean play from our our libraries to some degree if we were going to remove books that have overtly sexual content. But I absolutely hear what you're saying. The library media folks, they did talk to me about it's not just racial diversity and other kinds of diversity, by the way, with the book selections. It's about experiences, perspectives, building empathy, and then the opposite, which is like what not to include, right? So, which I think you're speaking to here. And for example, our collections do not contain books that would promote ideas that oppress people, devalue people, or undermining to people. We don't have any specific standards that you are talking about that you could find in a board policy. We, like I said before, as far as library books go, because they are choices, they're not books that students are being intentionally taught, assessed, etc. We're going to have a larger array of books that are available in a library because they're not being explicitly taught in the curriculum. So beyond what's in the policy, like I said, we don't have particular standards. The library media specialists are trained in library science, and they're going to use the resources at hand and their network and input from lots of different lots of different places to make decisions about the books that are going to be in our libraries.
Own standards, other than the so-called professional sources, since probably what has happened in wider society is that in some of these professional organizations is that they have dropped all standards, and Windsor should do better. I'm surprised that we don't have a policy that at least says some sort of language about appropriate content. But in any case, I would expect that our own school librarians and our own schools would understand what these are, would have some, would apply the common sense standards. It's one thing for someone to make an oblique reference to a sex act or something like this in a book, but the kind of descriptions that that exist in some of these are simply beyond the pale and is just not something that should be used in a school. There's certainly a large difference, and so I just leave you with that the professional sources are not very well. Whatever professional sources you're using, obviously, if they agreed to this kind of book and this kind of language, they do not have appropriate standards. And the fact, and I don't know what the board policy is, but I would expect that the staff would have their own and would recognize that this sort of material. Well, you can find something else. There's an infinite amount of material out there for all sorts of good books. So I'll just leave you with that, and maybe we should take it up in policy. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Wallace?
Yeah, what the policy does say is.
Number 7, it is recognized that opinions differ concerning appropriateness of instructional materials. Occasionally, an individual or group may find instructional materials used in the schools conflict with their views. Parents and guardians may challenge materials in accordance with the administrative regulations. So we do have something in place that allows parents, families to challenge materials. And I think this is just my opinion, but I think what would need to be considered moving forward when we're talking about these issues is number 1 is the text actually being intentionally taught and assessed, or could the student choose to read something else? I think that's important. And the other thing is that it's a slippery slope. I mean, what do you end up including or excluding? Like I mentioned, for example, after being a literature major for my bachelor's and master's degrees, I mean, if we were putting in some standards around explicitness of text, we'd have to remove pretty much all of Shakespeare, all of Chaucer. So it's a slippery slope. I can provide the board with some of the titles of the professional resources and journals that library media specialists in our district and other districts are using to make decisions about what to add or not add to collections. They're pretty standard, peer reviewed, a lot of them. So I'm not sure which standards you're referring to that they have negated, but like I said, I'd be happy to provide the board with a list of what is being used on the on our end or most library media ends to select books.
The other way, just to use that same argument, then everything is permitted. So, obviously there have to be some standards, and it is appropriate for us, as to say, if it's not going to be the Board of Ed, certainly our professionals, to recognize the difference between what is obviously crude material and obviously something which is an oblique reference to something. I mean, maybe, what was it? Jerzy Kosinski's was a bit over the being there, or what was the name of the book? That was a bit of a controversy. It was quite a while ago. But, you can get them in there that caused the controversies. I believe it was probably in the late 90s. It was an assigned book, and it just had a few areas, but nothing at all like the book that you're talking about here, or the 57 bus, or there are others out there. As for a parent having a choice, the choice occurs, let's say in that particular book that I just mentioned, the controversy came out that it was an assigned book, and the parent didn't hear about it until the daughter who was reading it came and said, well, this is pretty bad. And then the parent came down and complained about it. In other words, they were not told about these various passages. So it's one thing to say that someone may choose another book, but you have to know what is in the book, first of all, to begin with. So there's an incident of, well, who's going to make this judgment? Well, obviously, I think you could. You should be able to, and so should your English teachers and and others. And you should be able to tell the difference between something which is openly crude and something which is an oblique reference to it, say a kind of offhand comment, something. So I think I'll just return to that the district should be able to make its judgment and not simply trust outside sources, regardless of how professional they are.
Mr. Wollaston?
I'm happy to engage in whatever conversation the board would like to have about it, and I don't want to belabor the issue with the book that was called the 57 Bus, but there was a communication sent home to families, and the book was a choice. It was not a book assigned to the whole class, so I just have to be accurate in how that was portrayed. But again, happy to work with the board on and work with Dr. Hill and the team on any aspect of this.
Mr. Wollaston?
Yeah, I was just wondering, well, before I begin what I'll say, I was just wondering, I have a general question to you maybe. What is the order when we have a question? Because I kind of had a question for a while, and we're going back and forth. Can we have it in a way where one person gets to express what they feel and we go on different sides of the aisle? If there's I'm just not sure about how it goes. So
May I just address? The issue is I was given the floor, and therefore I had a conversation. Now I've given up the floor, and I'm not going to ask any questions. If you can ask all the questions you want.
I just wanted to know.
Yeah, no, it's a very good question, yeah. He had the floor, so it was back and forth.
All right.
So now the floor is yours, and
Okay.
if you have follow-up questions, that's before I look to anybody else.
All right,
It's
yeah,
up
that's
to
all
you.
I wondered. That's all I
No.
wondered. No harm, no foul. I was just wondering the process. But so I guess the first thing I'll say is that in high school I had to read To Kill a Mockingbird. It's a book where there's N-word hard R, and I as a black man have to listen to this. Maybe whoever's reading decides not to say the word. Maybe whoever's reading decides not to say the word. It is up to their discretion. But this is a book that we had to read, and it was in the curriculum. To some people, that may be inappropriate for me to have to hear someone say that, especially if the teacher I have is not a person of color, but I'm a student that has to hear this teacher read the book, or whichever student is given the floor to read the book. So we can have that discussion all day long, I believe, with many books, as she mentioned, many Shakespearean books as well, because just some of the content in there is very mature. And when you watch the movies to these books, they're oftentimes rated R books. They're not PG or PG-13 movies when they come out in the theaters. And I think a big deal, even with the book that was mentioned, was that the book was pulled prior to the meeting. So it sounds like to me, as was said, there's a filter in place, right? So they go through whatever third-party site they have to see if the book is a reputable book. I can imagine there's a lot of books in the library, and each librarian has not read every single book in the library. I can imagine that would be almost impossible for them to do that and do whatever other job they have to do as well. So I'm not really expecting them to have to open up every single book and read every single book every time. It just seems, it's a pretty big library. I'm sure you guys have seen it. And I don't think that's realistic. That's why we have to go to a third party, which sometimes we can just get a good idea if this is a good fit or not. And the final catch can that we have is in the policy, which Ms. Feynman read. If a parent feels like the book is not appropriate, they have the right to a hearing. That's that's a good structure to me. In my opinion, that's a good structure. We get it through the small filter, and some of the books might be read by the librarians, and then the final say is a parent can come up and have a hearing and say, hey, we don't think this one, we think one fell through the cracks, so to speak, and you should get this removed. So said, so done. The book wasn't even an option for the kids to read when it came up to us. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, any other comments? Ms. Cantor?
Thank you. I found the book very offensive for junior high students to read. I would never want my son to come home reading that book, and I wouldn't want him to have access to that. I think 6th, 7th, and 8th graders should not have access to that. And personally, I don't even think high school students should be reading that. I think they can find more value in other literature with more meaningful statements and theories and different processes. I just think that the librarians should have seen that and pulled it, and I think that at the beginning of school, if you're going to send out something like that, you want students to read that. The parents should be notified by email, text, and it should have the documentation in it prior to school beginning. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Feynman, for being available and also for differentiating a little bit about the differences between books that can be chosen by students versus books that are going to be readily assigned. We know there is a formal process to go through curriculum if a book is going to be considered to be used in the classroom. And is every book read by everyone? Probably not, but at least the board is given an opportunity through the curriculum committee and afterwards to look at any of the books that are on that list and to read up on them before we approve them. Next order of business. Oh, sorry.
We still in the superintendent's report, right?
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Dr. Hill, back to you. Don't know if that was your last order of business for the.
Anything else? Nope, thank you, Mr. President. That's it. That concludes the report for me.
Thank you. Committee reports, I'll look to Leonard or Nathan. Anything to report? I don't think there have been any meetings recently. And Ms. Taylor, anything from curriculum? I don't think, again, there's been a meeting, so. The next order of business is other matters.
She said no,
Uh-oh.
just for the record.
She said no? Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. When you say she said no, I keep hearing, I'm hard of hearing.
I'm so sorry. She typed no
yes,
in
she
the
did,
chat.
in the chat.
That is the appropriate word. You're correct.
Well, eventually I did catch on to that, but that was halfway through the meeting. Oh, my mic is on, sorry, no. Other matters, announcements, regular Board of Ed meetings. Board of Ed special meeting on Thursday, June 30th, 2022 at 6:30 in the LPW boardroom. The next Board of Ed regular meeting is Tuesday, September 20th, 2022. Wow, it's a ways to go. 7 p.m. in LPW boardroom. Next order of business is audience to visitor. Ms. Daly, if you could read.
Are you going to allow people to go back and forth?
Yes, yeah, after that.
Okay.
Good evening, this is Robin Daly from the Superintendent's Office. If there's anyone from the public who would like to address the board, you may do so in two different ways. If you are using the Zoom application on your mobile device or computer, you may enter your comments into the Q&A feature located at the bottom of the Zoom menu bar. Or you may raise your hand on your computer if your device has a microphone by selecting the participant's icon on the Zoom menu bar and then clicking Raise Hand, or by dialing *9 on your phone. You will be given 3 minutes to speak. Please state your name and address. When you are called on, you'll be prompted with "You are now unmuted." For clear communication, we ask that you do not place your call on speakerphone. No comments can be made against the employees of the school district or children outside of your own.
Okay, I'm going to go again for inside the building. Anybody who would like to address the board?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Will Pelkey, 133 Portman Street. Would like to say thank you for your service for this past school year. Mr. Lockhart, despite your fandom with the Dallas Cowboys and your erroneous ways there, I very much appreciate your sentiments regarding the hybrid meeting. Not so much for the public part. I'm very much in supportive of that. That has been useful, not for me with these board meetings, but I know it's been useful for me with town council and other meetings. So as a member of the public, that's great. I would really hope that the next time this comes around that the board would see fit to make sure that all of you who ran for office, or in the case of the newest, decided to join and offered their services, would be committed to being here in person in every single time. Now, I know there's illness. I know there's other things like that, but I think showing the community and showing constituents and citizens that you're committed to being here all the time, as much as most of you are, I think that's a little bit important. You know, you signed up for the job. You should be here. It's just my opinion on that one. And then as a former teacher, I'm still going to give out a homework assignment. I've plugged this before. Ms. Clayton, not for you, but I'll say it to the first time to you. Your homework assignment, please continue working on vocational, professional, etc. Curriculum ideas and implementation. I'm very much looking forward to seeing what the results of the firefighter classroom lessons and that is, and I hope that's a big success and can branch out to some other areas as well. So again, I'm going to give you guys some homework, some summer reading or something to do. Please take a look at that and let's get more of that implemented in Windsor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else in the boardroom? Seeing none. Ms. Daly, somebody on the phone or through Zoom?
There is one attendee with their hand raised. Ms. Grossman, you are unmuted.
Hi, thank you. Sally Grossman, Niles Road. I wanted to speak about an article in the Journal Inquirer concerning our mascot. But before I get to that, I did just kind of want to add to the discussion on whether or not the meeting should continue to be hybrid. And I can say, you know, as a parent of 2 small children, having a hybrid meeting makes it a lot easier for me to attend. And even for board members, life happens. And I don't think that even elected officials need to be present in every single meeting in person. I think allowing elected officials to have the option to attend meetings virtually would open the door to allowing more people to run for office, like more people with young children who may not be able to commit to being in person otherwise. But as far as our mascot goes, I remember a couple years ago that we had lost funding because the Windsor Warrior mascot was deemed inappropriate. I think it's because of a feather and arrow, which ties to the indigenous community. And according to this Journal Inquirer article from a couple days ago, Dr. Hill had stated that there's been no effort to change the mascot, which means that we lose funding from the state because of that. So I'm really hoping that, you know, during the summer, that the board can kind of, you know, think about whether or not they want to address this issue and whether or not they want to continue to, you know, receive this funding, because with the pandemic and with so many students being behind, I think our school system can use as much money as it can in getting rid of, you know, a couple of feathers and arrows seems to be a, you know, an easy price to pay for that. So thank you.
Anyone else, Ms. Daly?
There are no other hands raised, and there are no comments in the Q&A feature.
Okay. Then without objection, I'm going to close audience to visitor. Next item is an executive session. Mr. Lockhart.
President moved that the Board of Education into executive session for the purpose of discussing ratification of the agreement between the Windsor Board of Education and the CSEA, SEIU Local 2001, which is the Windsor Schools Nurses Association, before taking possible action in the regular meeting. We will invite Superintendent Dr. Terrell Hill and Ms. Danielle Battel, the Director of Business Services and Human Resources, to be part of the discussion.
Is there a
Second.
second? Motion made by Mr. Lockhart, seconded by Mr. Panos to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing possible ratification of agreement between the Windsor Board of Education and CSEA SEIU Local 2001. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none. All those in favor of going to executive session, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay.
She said yes.
Abstention?
She typed yes.
Thank you.
This is-
She typed
Yeah.
aye.
Wow, we're literal today.
Yeah.
You are correct, Mr. President.
Motion carries 900. We're to go to executive session. We're in recess at 8:55.
Little sleepy.
I don't want to disappoint Paul, you know? He
No.
doesn't like to pick on
You know,
weaklings. He wants someone to start fighting back.
just tell him he's just gonna.
I told you what happened to me with all my emails. I didn't get
No, please.
Are we good to go?
Taylor, I can't barely hear.
We are back at the regular meeting, and at this point in time, I'll look for a motion from Mr. Lockhart.
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education vote to ratify the agreement between the Windsor Board of Education and the CSEA, SEIU Local 2001, open parenthesis, Windsor School Nurses Association, close parenthesis, covering July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2025.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Lockhart, seconded by Mr. Panos to ratify the agreement. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Mr. Taylor says aye.
Okay, very good. Abstentions? Motion carries 9-0-0. I'd like to have, give opportunities to all board members to say parting comments here, the last official meeting of the year, starting first with our newest board member, Ms. Claes.
Thank you very much. I just want to say thank you all for your support on the vote tonight. It was really wonderful, and I look forward to working with all of you. Also, for anybody in the public who might be listening now or later on, my husband and I moved into Windsor in 1991. We've raised 2 girls here. They both went through the Windsor public school system. They've done amazingly well. They were extraordinarily prepared, so we're very proud of them and very thankful to the schools. I work for the Connecticut Department of Social Services in a partnership with the School of Social Work, and in that role, I do a lot of instructional design and delivery for adults, so I'm used to that work, and we work with a lot of policy. So I'm very excited to be able to add to that, and look forward to seeing you, I guess, one more time, and then a lot in September. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Halleck.
Thank you. I want to congratulate our newest board member. I look forward to working with you. I hope everyone has a great summer. Congratulations one more time to the class of 2022. I know you're going to go out there and do amazing things, and we look forward to see what you're going to be doing in the future. And I look forward to seeing you all at some point over the summer. So.
Sounds
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you. Mr. Wollaston.
Yeah, I was just gonna say congratulations. It's great to have you here, and I'm looking forward to having another teacher.
Ms. Galinsky.
I'm going to piggyback off of what everyone else has said. Congratulations. I look forward to serving with you on the board. And then I want to wish everyone just a really enjoyable summer. Hope you guys can make some wonderful memories with your family and friends, and just enjoy yourselves, and let's come back with some fun stories to share.
Thank you. I don't know, Ms. Taylor, if you're connected or...
I don't know if you can hear me.
We hear you.
Yay.
Let's do the meeting over again. Let's not, but congratulations, Darlene. You're great, and you're going to be great. You've sat in a seat similar before, so we can learn a lot from you. And I just want to wish everyone a safe summer. Remember to not have, people not locking any dogs, children in hot cars. That's one of those things that kind of just happens over the summers. Oftentimes people moving too fast. So when you're thinking about, slow down and be a little more safe, and everybody come back well rested in the fall. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you. I just wanted to congratulate. This is great. It's really positive for the town of Windsor, and I look forward to working with you. I have an email that I have from Dr. Berry, so I'd just like to make some announcements. And there are a lot of chess opportunities that are going to occur this summer. It's going to start on June 28th at the Wilson Library from 11 a.m. to 12:30. All ages and skill sets are welcome, and he will be there every Tuesday during the summer. There's a Monarch Festival on July 9th at 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. The Windsor Senior Center from July 20th to July 20th at 3:30 to 6 p.m. and September 9th from 5 to 7 p.m. And then there are the summer block parties in the park on July 15th, July 29th, and August 12th. And he said he'll be available for one-on-one sessions on small group sessions. So I would take advantage of that if you had the opportunity. And I just wanted to wish everybody a very nice summer and to enjoy yourselves with your family and friends and stay rested. Don't do anything to get hurt and stay hydrated with watermelon.
Spoken
Thank
like
you.
a parent and nurse. Thank you. Mr. Lockhart.
Thank you. Just quickly for CREC, we just recently passed the budget for them. The state didn't, the CGA did not fund them fully as they had hoped and as the way they have lobbied for. If this keeps going on the way it is, I see no way for CREC to be sustainable without them charging those extra dollars back to the supporting districts. They're providing the service, but their funding is just so upside down right now. So want to keep a close eye at that. I know we support CREC, but I also know that we support trying to keep our kids in district and bringing them back as well, providing the services that the parents are looking for. So that's definitely something on my radar with the CREC Council, and I'll keep everybody updated with that next academic year. With CABE, I did some testifying, especially in the area of low funding, also in the area of special ed funding. Testified that we lost about $250,000 one year, and that, now it's going to get worse, so that gives me more fuel for my fire. But for statewide, this is something that's going on in all the state and all the districts in the state. So it's not a political situation. This is just a funding formula issue that's impacted everyone that needs to be truly addressed. This evening, I was slightly late. We are saying goodbye to the executive director, Mr. Rader. After 26 years as the executive director, he is retiring as of June 30th. Patrice McCarthy, who is the deputy director and general counsel, will become the new executive director as of July 1st. She's been in that position for 26 years, and this is something she's been waiting basically a whole career for, and it has now arrived for. So I wish them both well. As far as CABE, the conference registration is opening up. Mr. President will be reaching out to every board member. It will be a Friday, Saturday concept, all day Friday and half day Saturday. We would like to take advantage of the early bird registration sooner rather than later. So if you know you are coming, going to the conference, please let David know, and we can take advantage of the early bird rate. And hopefully this board, we will go through the exercise with Sally and David in September of making sure that we maintain our distinction level as a Board of Education. I am sensitive to the concerns made the last time about the designation that was submitted to CABE on behalf of this board, and I'm sure the President will be working with us on that matter. As far as if there's any political stances that this board would like to take and have CABE advocate for, the Delegate Assembly is going to be looking for any type of submissions coming from boards of education across the state. Windsor has some experience in this area. Windsor was the one where we actually adjusted the school calendar where we can actually submit for graduation dates in September rather than waiting later in the year. That came directly from Windsor through the Delegate Assembly, adopted by CABE, and then it was pushed as a legislative priority, and it was passed by the CGA. So there's definitely some advocacy that can be done there as well. So to all the families, be safe, be well. I am personally looking forward to this particular summer, selfishly. I am expecting my first grandchild within the next 2 weeks, and I'm looking forward to be Pawpaw. And I am very excited about the prospects of my family growing. My oldest son is very ecstatic, nervous and anxious at the same time, but I'm looking forward to taking some downtime away from a lot of things that I do in my life to really just walk and smell the roses for a few moments before I get back up and running again. So as you stated, let's enjoy some memories. This will be a very memorable 2022, and I eagerly cannot wait to get back to a board meeting in September and to engage my fellow counterpart, Mr. Panos, in debate as we fight for the children in this town of Windsor. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lockhart. Mr. Panos.
Well, congratulations, Mr. Lockhart.
Thank you.
On the prospect of grandfatherhood.
Yeah.
It will be a great thing.
I'm looking forward to it.
And congratulations, this was Mrs. Clays. I really look forward to working with you. Like I say, this was great. It was a close vote, but you pulled right through. And thank you very much for filling in. I think it's very important. And so I wish everyone a happy summer, and we'll see you in September.
Thank you. Yes, congratulations, Mr. Lockhart.
Thank you.
Mr. Panos and I can relate to the grandparenthood, what a good thing that is versus parenthood. No. sorry, kids. Sorry. Oh, boy. Congratulations again to Darlene. Thank you so much for stepping up and willing to serve again.
Yep.
It's great to have somebody who's going to be able to hit the ground running, knowing what this work is like, and willing to accept that challenge again. Congratulations to the board. I think we have moved forward well together. I think that's important. We've gotten to know each other as the year's gone on, and I look forward to some informal sessions this summer where we can see each other. We can't debate any policy or anything, but see ourselves out at various functions throughout the town. And with the price of gas, there'll be a lot of staycations this summer. Again, thank you again to the staff, all the staff at Windsor Public Schools for continuously going above and beyond what we asked for. As I mentioned earlier, yes, it was great to have everybody back in the schools, but this is not business as usual. We have a lot of work to do, both as regarding social emotional learning, but also achievement. And I know Dr. Hill is very interested in moving that needle as well. So I think it'll be a good partnership between the schools and the board in moving that needle for all our students. So again, thank you so much, and I'll entertain one more motion.
Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
Move for adjournment.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Lockhart, seconded by Mr. Panos. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Abstentions?
Ms. Ayanna Taylor typed aye.
Oh, okay. And she said it.
she said
So
it.
it's 10-0-0? No, not. Motion carries 9-0-0. It's 9:35, and we are adjourned.